Welcome back to the podcast. You're Blocking the TV, Season 2, Episode 2. Today is the 29th of September. Josh Creekmore here with Alex Pacheco. And we were potentially going to do an episode last week, and the week just kind of got away from both of us. I ended up out of town for the weekend, and sometimes there's just too much life that happens with people like us who don't do this for a living anymore. But we are back today, and we're going to stick at least to our, new episode every 2 weeks plan.
With that being said, get us a PO box, and if there's any sponsors out there that need to get some stuff advertised, we read a mean copy ad.
So we do. We could even write the copy, but you don't need to make us do that. We'll happily read your copy, and we'll give you we'll give you all the respect that you deserve, and we'll make sure that you get a little bit more business. But just remember, when it comes to that kind of advertising, the benefit is intangible, and sometimes you can't measure it.
Reaching.
That's just the way it goes. But yes, absolutely. We are welcoming sponsors. We are up on Spotify now, which makes the whole thing feel a little bit more legitimate. But that means that we have to be legitimate as well. So we're going to work on that. Anyway, so we are going to stick to our format of the round robin questions. Alex has some questions for me. I have some questions for Alex. But before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have seen on the old tube in the sports realm in the past week or so, or recently, that is of note. Alex, why don't you start? What have you been watching that has been exciting for you?
Coming down, we're obviously going to dive further into it as MLB playoffs get underway. The bracket is set, but kept my eye on a lot of baseball games this week. Was fun to scoreboard watch and see how many things intermingled and the matchups that came out of it. Some of these matchups in this first round are just, you're talking Yankees, Red Sox, you're talking Guardians, Tigers, Padres, Cubs, and then Dodgers and Reds to kick us off tomorrow. I think it's going to be cinema. Hope for some really good series. Hope they all go 3 games. I know have some vested interest, so a lot of baseball watching, a lot of football, obviously, and unfortunately this week was the week of injuries. Just injuries popping up left and right to key players. Watching a lot of those first 5 draft picks just starting to get dinged up, nicked up, and unfortunately just had another out for the year with Malik Neighbors going down with a torn ACL. And then actually catching up on our alma mater out in the NAIA. There is some parity in the GPAC. So that's been really fun to take in and see Dordt beating Northwestern for the first time ever.
Wow.
Massive upset.
That's Dutch on Dutch crime right there, isn't it?
It's got to be pretty awkward out in Iowa this week. Is just the ripple effects of that, and a lot of GPAC teams being ranked. Our alma mater was always at the top. Once Sioux Falls left, of course. We'll get into that maybe in the summer 1 month. Dive into that. But yeah, those have been kind of the 3 big things on my television this week, and it's been an exciting week to be a sports fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to make this all about baseball, even though I'm a Cleveland Guardians fan, and we just had basically a historic run in September to come from the depths of the cellar back into contention, breathing down the neck of the Tigers, and then finally on top, finishing as the ho-hum AL Central champs yet again. It just it was an unbelievable run. Just super fun September of baseball, and I am glad that we got the win yesterday, even though we didn't have to. When I'll say that when what's his name? I can't think of his name for the Rangers that hit the 3-run bomb in the top of the 10th. I messaged somebody. I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have to kick off the playoffs and just get our momentum going then, because it just is what it is. And then we come back in the bottom of the 10th and just scrape it together. And then a guy in Brian Rocchio, who got sent down to the minors after starting at shortstop all last year, sent down to the minors early this year because he just wasn't playing, wasn't hitting, wasn't fielding well, and then comes back, slots into that second base spot, and basically becomes our second baseman. Has hit, I think, above a 270 clip since he came back. And then he caps that off in the regular season with a 3-run home run. Not a power guy, but he absolutely launched that thing. And just a lot of fun. Baseball, the pageantry of Major League Baseball, especially in the late in the season when you're talking about pennant races and divisional races and whatnot, is just unparalleled to me. But I'm
Fair.
biased. I'm
And
biased.
the Rangers pitcher's first hit batsman sends the Guardians to the playoffs. That was pretty
Well,
cinematic.
so the boys on Fox, I was listening to a podcast earlier today. The boys on Fox were wrong. It was
Okay.
not his first career hit batsman. It was his first this year, though. He did hit one guy last year. But either way, I mean, you hit one guy all year, and it happens to be in that situation and propels the Guardians to a very unlikely division crown, or at that time a playoff berth, which was almost as unlikely, frankly. Especially when you look at the wild card standings. If Cleveland doesn't do what they do, if they don't win the division, if they lose 3 more games than they won, toward the tail end there, they are not in the playoffs. That's how close it was. And yeah, just crazy. But what I
Could
wanted to
happen
talk
to a
about
better club in
before I
Houston.
went off on that tirade that I said I wasn't going to go on is the quality of primetime NFL football thus far in the year. It seems like every Sunday and Monday night game is just an unbelievable game. And last night's Sunday night football was, you know, I almost felt bad for the Cowboys. I say almost because it's hard for me to feel bad for them, but they played a heck of a game, kept coming, kept battling, and that game ends in a 40-40 tie at the end of overtime period. That's another question that we can dig into, but just Alex, have you watched any of this primetime football? It's just been crazy.
Oh, it's been awesome. The wife and I are part of a pick'em league with her family, so it's I want to say it's like 25 people, 30 people doing a pick 'em, and it makes every game entertaining because you have vested interest to check on every score. Last night felt like deja vu with a 37-37 game going to overtime, similar to the Cowboys Giants. So not only are the Cowboys like fun to watch lose, but they're also putting up points and giving up points. So it's entertaining football where both teams are making plays. I think one of the bigger points is the refs haven't gotten in the way. It's been really nice to see the quick reviews, the quick, hey, this went up to the booth, we fixed it real quick, we're back to football, as opposed to seeing, oh, we have to go, like, it's clear as day he was out of bounds, let's get this ball moving again. It's been really entertaining. NFL really taking care of how quickly these booth reviews and just the decisions are being made on the field to make it a more enjoyable product to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and going back to that game last night, the Cowboys are marching late and to try to take the lead late, and you see a Dak Prescott who looks like, I was admittedly I was out on Dak Prescott. I thought, he's probably done being a true franchise quarterback. He's just, he's come back from that injury. I don't know if he's really the winner that they're looking for. And some of the plays that you've seen him make this year, I mean, I think he's in it, and I think he's a winner. But that throw down to like the 5-yard line to Tolbert, where at full speed, I'll acknowledge I was like, "There's no way he was in bounds there, no way." And then, sure enough, he's in bounds. And then they've got it first and goal, and they settle for a field goal.
Yeah, yeah,
And
brutal.
then, I mean, to me, that was the pivotal play that if they don't settle for a field goal there and they force Green Bay to go score a touchdown, it's probably not going to overtime. But I mean, that was just the way that game went. But I mean, both teams were it was just blow for blow, and a very entertaining game, very entertaining. And going back to the Malik Neighbors thing and the fantasy football thing, he was my first round pick in both of my leagues. Yeah.
What happened?
So
That'll
So
happen.
not that he's been great even before the injury, but now I have to find somebody else. And my bench has looked bleak. Like I have no per like week to week double digit scores on my bench.
It's been
So
rough. I feel like this year, especially digging the doldrums for wide receivers and running backs, it's tough. They went early and often this year, and there really isn't anyone on the waiver. I took a flyer on Hollywood Brown for KC, but now with Xavier back, Hollywood has a garbage time touchdown yesterday to really put the Ravens away. But other than that, you're just hoping to find a matchup there towards the end of the week. I've been having my mom send me a lot of texts throughout the week. We take a look at this. Where am I looking? And there's just not much out there right now. There's been some high
no,
scoring games, but there've also been a lot of field goal kicking battles as well. So
right.
nothing really standing out in terms of waiver wire diamond finds right now.
I will say that I was pleased with. Well, so I said Neighbors was my first round pick. He was my second round pick on one of my teams. My first round pick was Ashton Genty, and I haven't been. I mean, they have really coddled him in Vegas, and I was concerned that they're just going to do that all year. Not yesterday. Oh boy, I mean, he started off the game with a costly fumble, but he was catching passes for touch. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. He had a long rushing touchdown. Oh man, he looks like he is ready to really crush some of those doubters that said that he just wasn't built for the NFL, because he's a tackle breaking machine, with pretty good top end speed. Like, ooh,
Well, and
so
you hope
he
the
won
Raiders
me my
take care.
matchup on that side at least. So
Like you said, you hope the Raiders take care of them because with KC kind of on the downward end of their dynasty, if you will, and then the Chargers and the Broncos just waiting in the wings. It's one of those teams where, hey, keep building, keep getting positive momentum going. You have something in place now, some structure, and you have what could be and hope to be a franchise running back. Last night, going back to the Cowboys real quick, seeing what Javonte Williams is doing with the Cowboys, didn't really, had a strong start with the Broncos, and then the Broncos just kind of gave up on, is really good at breaking tackles and being that rough and tough. Genty and Javonte really have that same kind of mold of being a little bit smaller, a little bit edgier, harder to tackle guys.
low center of gravity, and
And they
you try to wrap up one of those thick thighs, and they just push right through you.
keep churning. Yep. And I wish them nothing but the best because they're fun to watch. I like seeing the backs that can cut through. As it's fun seeing King Henry, but it's just he's blessed with too many talents with height and skill, and the way he runs up those hills in the off season. It's nice to see
It hasn't really looked, you know, all that special. And I have Derrick Henry on my other team, and the team that I had. So I had George Pickens on that team. He was my besides him and Josh Allen, my QB. No other double digit scorers on my entire team. And we play in that league. We have no kicker, no defense. We have 3 flex.
nice.
And so with all of those skill position guys in the lineup, George Pickens was my only skill player with double digit scoring.
Oof.
And then you look on my bench and nobody in double digits either. So Derrick Henry, oh man, the Ravens. I mean, they didn't have much of a showing against KC yesterday. It was kind of a get right game for KC, but
But
very
also with
disappointing.
the 7 injuries yesterday, so I don't know where the Ravens go from here.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
pack it
it's
up
tough. It's
for
tough.
next year?
I will always feel like there's hope for a team that has a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, because that guy can just do it all. But yeah, they don't look like they can run the ball very well. And in the NFL, especially when you've got a running back like Derrick Henry, it's got to start there. And they just really don't look like they can run the ball. So kind of a bummer. I'm gonna have to find somebody else to probably slot into that RB1 slot for my roster if I can. But anywho, well, let's get to the questions. That's enough of all of the fun stuff that we've been watching, but I think a good discussion. NFL season, suffice to say, has been pretty fun so far. Even if
Absolutely.
your fantasy team is, I think one is going to be both 2-2. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sunshine.
I'll feel okay about that. Hey, one other thing, I did win a 14 team fantasy baseball league yesterday. So that feels good. Regular season champ and playoff champ. Had to staple it together, but I got it done. So that felt good. That's the first fantasy title that I have won in over a decade in any sport. I'm ashamed to say.
Popping some
Yeah.
bubbles on that one for sure.
Yep. Anyway, well, so sticking with baseball, Alex. Obviously, we've talked about the Rockies off and on. The topic of discussion with the Rockies is at the franchise level, I think. So, how do you think they can fix that franchise? And realistically, with this, just the scope of professional sports and pro baseball, is it even possible for them to become a contender at this point?
Yeah, tough question. I'm going to revert to a radio show I was listening to this past week where we actually were able to bring on the color analyst for the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, giving up home run number 60 to the big dumper with the Rockies in attendance and being able to celebrate their division crown and see all that was special as a Rockies fan because I'm hoping our guys are standing up on the railings going, "Hey, I want to be here someday." But at the end of it, it's not up to them. You had Kyle Freeland saying he's a Colorado native, grew up here, and he's pissed off and wants to see the Rockies succeed and do better. But they are so far gone. And when you even look at their 3 playoff appearances over our entire existence, they were all pretty lucky if you look at it. So not winning a division crown, making it to the playoffs each time as a wild card, having a Guardian type run to even make the World Series, and then not win a single World Series game. It starts from the bottom, and it's not as quick as say an NHL team that finishes dead last, an NFL team that gets the number 1 pick, an NBA team where you only have 5 players on the court. First pick in an NBA draft is vital and really important. When you look at the draft landscape and the farm system of the Rockies, not only are we dead last in the MLB, top 10 in attendance, I might add, for all of our commuter fans that have moved to Denver and go to see their own team. But we are like a number 24 ranked farm system by mid 20s ranked farm system by a lot of all the fan graphs and publications out there. So when you look at it from that perspective, I'll go back kind of bouncing around. When we talked with the Seattle color, he was like, when the Rockies came in the league, they were my favorite team. I like the purple, and they're really close. Like it was just being kind, probably saying what everybody says, and he was, they're really close to making a big difference and are a couple pieces away. And thankfully, our radio station was like, "I know you're being kind, but we're an owner and a farm system away, which ain't close," and kind of laughed on air. You can't rebuild a farm system in 1 year. You can't rebuild we used to have the Isotopes be a feeder team. We used to have the Colorado Springs team be a feeder team where, we could get a lot of looks and those teams could practice at altitude. Now our AAA and single A teams, they're not playing at altitude. So we're developing pitchers at sea level and then saying, "Good luck at Coors Field. Why aren't you panning out?" So we've laughed about this a lot, but why don't we just go win every game 35-34? We'll just outslug it. Like, forget ERA. You come here, your ERA is a place to die, but this is how we're going to win games. We are 5 to 10 years away from being relevant. I think I was super disappointed the October year in 07 when we didn't win the division because we were right there battling. The last time we made the playoffs, right there battling, had to go to 163 to decide the NL West winner and go play the Dodgers in LA. Lost that game. But until you win a division and you have some consistency, you're not relevant. And there are just way, way, way too many holes in baseball to fix when you look at a baseball field and then all of its all the AAA, single A, all the drafting that goes on. We're a hot mess. Key people need to be replaced. People need to lose their jobs, and people need to be held accountable because right now there is no accountability in Denver.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of eerily similar to the discussion that we had about building a new franchise. In that, I mean, all of those things that you would be building fresh with a new franchise are a mess with the Rockies organization. So it certainly seems like you're going to have to start with some firing, but I was going to look at this 40-man roster because there were some bright spots this year. I thought, from a personnel standpoint, you had some guys that emerged this year, like your Hunter Goodman, your Tyler Freeman, a former Cleveland Guardian who had a pretty good year at the tail end. Ezekiel Tovar has been, has looked like he could be a franchise player. Brenton Doyle goes and gets it in center field as well as anybody. So you have some of those guys. It has seemed like maybe on the pitching side, it really has been rough. Um, Kyle Freeland being one of those guys that has, yes, he's a Colorado native and all, but he has had some bright spots and some really, really rough stretches as well. So, I mean, I think it's too big of an issue to say, well, they can hit, they've got some bright spots and blah blah blah, but they do have some bright spots. My worry for them is that those bright spots become trade fodder.
That's the problem.
And
The
then
players you just named are the next Red Sox, Yankees, Houston Astro, Cub, Philly, Met. They're not Rockies. Like when
yeah,
you think baseball in Colorado, you don't think that this player is going to be here for an extended amount of time. That's going to make a difference. So yeah, we had some bright spots. I don't anticipate them being on the roster for more than 2 years. No
right.
one's signing a long-term contract here. They all have trade value, and they're all looking for their next opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean, by all accounts, it seems like it would be a great place to play. Um, as you said, top 10 in revenue. They fill that stadium. It's a good fan experience to go watch a game there. It's just sort of like not if you're a Rockies fan though, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. It's sad to see.
Side note, you went to see the Savannah Bananas there. What was that experience like?
It was like the World Series times 10. The experience, the fandom. Both the wife and I said we would pay $200 a ticket to see them again. Definitely want to take all three kids. The experience that they put the fans first isn't just a slogan, it's truly what they do.
Mm-hmm.
We were super blessed. We sat right behind home plate. My uncle works for a dealership in town that sponsors the Rockies, got some last minute tickets. Everyone that was in the batter circle was turning around talking to us. Had one guy sit on the rail and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you still see? I'll shift over here and at the plate." All answering questions. Fireman Joe, the catcher, got to ask him. I said, is this all scripted in terms of who wins?" And he goes, "All the dancing, all the songs, when we do them, scripted, but I hate those guys over there. Like I want to beat them every night." So when you talk about competition and a true league that could be developed, go check out, if you can, do a quick YouTube search and look up Joe Torre's conversation with the head of Savannah Bananas.
Mm-hmm.
They had him on as a guest manager, let him coach first base, which was just awesome. Every town they go to, they bring in local legends. And Joe Torre was asking about what they do in a tie ball game, and it's a showdown. And the guy, I'm spacing his name, it should be a household name, but who runs the Savannah Bananas was telling Joe, well, the end of baseball is boring. It's just the exact same, and it's a lot of bunting and small ball and pitching matchups. So you know what? We just took all of that out, and we said it's going to be a pitcher, one fielder, and a catcher against the batsman. And if he scores, you get a point. If he's out, he's out, and we're going to do a showdown. And what Joe Torre said is, yeah, at first, like I thought they were making fun of the sport. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, they're making us more athletic. They're making us be like, yeah, we can gun a guy out who hit one in the gap, throws it into his pitcher who relays to his catcher, and they gun a guy at home. Like that's an exciting play.
That's pretty cool. I was not aware of that.
And if it's tied after that, they go one pitcher versus one batter. So the pitcher throws the ball and then has to go field it. And if he can run back to home before circling the bases, and they
So let me ask you this, because of course I think initially, just because of all the dancing and all of the antics, which is what they're known for, it obviously is going to bring just easy comparisons to like the Harlem Globetrotters.
right.
How does it compare from an experience standpoint to that?
Well, I mean, the Globetrotters, you always knew that the Generals were going to lose. No matter what, you went into that game knowing the Generals are going to lose this game. So it was much
Sure.
more of a performance, almost like a "Who's on first" type of skit, where you're like, "Hey, I'm going because I want to see the fake water, the bucket that they throw that's confetti and no longer water, and I want to see the in between the legs, and still all the things that aren't legal in a true basketball game, putting the
Hmm.
ball underneath your shirt and running around." The Savannah Bananas is legal baseball. It is
Right.
trick plays while staying in the same confines of a baseball game and showing, hey, I can bounce it off my glove, I can catch it in my hat, I can, play on stilts, but I'm not doing anything that wouldn't be allowed in a true regulation game. I mean, obviously the stilts, a little bit of a stretch there.
Certainly things that you probably wouldn't do in a true regulation game, but
Right.
like
But still staying true to the rule.
I can just imagine what Lou Brown would have said to Willie Mays Hayes in Major League if instead of doing a little basket catch, he had done a backflip and caught the ball.
I mean, can you imagine if Bartman has a chance to catch that ball and it's an out? Is it
Yeah,
out?
I mean that is kind of
They're
cool.
more
Yeah,
mad that he
absolutely.
missed the catch as opposed to interfering.
Sure.
I mean,
So
what a
I and
different
I so I
experience.
think I know the answer to this based on everything that you've said, but uh I mean, do you think that is that's good for baseball at this point?
I think it's great for baseball. I think the changes that they made, they've differentiated themselves enough from baseball that it still is a different product, and you're still going to see situational baseball and relievers come in and still stay true to the game. But you can approach it a lot easier with your kids or people that aren't familiar with the sport and say, it's this easy. I remember, I'm a sports fanatic. I still don't know how cricket works. I understand the theory behind it. I understand the bats crossing the line. When I see a cricket score, I'm still like, what are all those numbers? What does it mean?
Wicket, googly, like all these
Innings
things.
and
You've got the
overs.
bowler. Yeah, no, we're gonna make all of the Brits that might potentially watch our little production laugh at us. Um,
But think about the bananas way. Every inning is just 1 point. You could win one inning 10-3. You're still only up 1-0.
yeah,
That's exciting. Every game should be close. A good battle where there's entertainment, and they everyone respects the game. It's hard working. Like I remember being asking my wife, I wonder if these players were any good, and a lot of them like they're calling up former Rockies prospects so and so coming to the plate now.
sure.
And equally thinking, is this guy embarrassed because he couldn't make it to the show, or is this his new show? Um,
Sure. I mean, it seems to me that the amount of skill, even if it is a little bit of a production, and obviously I'm not saying that it is 100%, but the amount of skill that you have to be able to do some of the things that they're doing is notable.
right.
And so, I mean, we've talked before about just the absolute beast of a baseball player that you have to be to actually play at the big league level. If you're at the big league level versus all the kids that get drafted and signed internationally and et cetera, that end up in these farm systems that never make it, who are by all accounts the best player that anybody that they know's ever seen, and they never sniff the big leagues. Like there's still an amount of skill that those guys have. And so even if right now, and I would say this got to be probably the case because I'm sure there's more money in Major League Baseball than there is playing for the Savannah Bananas, but like there's an amount of skill that those guys have that is more than probably anybody else that you're seeing.
Absolutely.
And again, to be able, my favorite thing is just always the backflip catch. Like
It's
I
so
mean, most people, let me put it in perspective. Most people, when I go out and play slow pitch softball and I play in the outfield, I mean, I can judge a fly ball pretty well. I can go get it pretty well. Most people cannot judge a fly ball from a distance well enough to catch it at all.
I think of the
Catch it.
guys with the slingshot in between innings where you try and catch 3 balls to win a Southwest airline ticket to anywhere, and they're
Yeah.
launching the ball up from a slingshot and they can't catch it. Like it's a
Yeah.
skill, much less doing a
Yeah, it
backflip.
is. So, I mean, to be able to do that while doing a backflip, the amount of hand-eye coordination and just general coordination and athletic ability to be able to do a standing backflip. I mean, most people can't do that. So, I mean, these are obviously athletes, but anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, well, I wanted to get a little bit in there about the Savannah Bananas because I knew that you had been there, and
Yep.
that's not an experience that I've had as a fan yet. But I think if they came here, I certainly would try to go.
Do it. It's a must do. Staying into baseball and kind of finishing off, I believe, with kind of baseball questions today. Want to hear your thoughts on just being a Guardians fan and making the playoffs, and not only making the playoffs, coming back from 15 and a half games down, winning the division, but also losing two key players throughout the year to the gambling issues, and then being sellers at the trade deadline.
Sure.
How kind of rewarding is it to one make the show, but also shoulda, coulda, woulda? And who says that you make the playoffs with keeping them? You got to do what you got to do. But so many lingering questions for this team. Are you playing with house money, and what's the feeling as a fan?
I think that I heard another pundit say this regarding this team. There have been a lot of complaints about the daily lineup throughout the season, especially when we were in just the dog days where, like June was a particularly bad month. And some of the players that they felt like we were putting out there, they were like, well, this guy can't even hit. He's a bum. And, like you realize that, and I mean, this is the perfect way to make fans realize by going on the run that they did with those players, along with some of the young players that, I mean, our top position player prospect still hasn't come up in Chase the Lauder. So they bring up George Valera, who was once our number one prospect, but has fallen off because of injuries and et cetera, et cetera. He comes up. He had a couple big hits, a couple big home runs, had a pretty good month of September. CJ Kafis comes up. He was one of those guys. I think he was like a third or fourth round draft pick out of Miami. Not necessarily expecting him to come up and be a star. He's been a lift. And it's just the way that they've managed this team with the losses that they've suffered, because you got to consider like Lane Thomas was slotted as their everyday center fielder and probably two-hole hitter. That you just expected that out of him. And obviously in his first year with the Guardians last year, he wasn't that good. And so it was kind of like, well, was this guy a mistake? But we know what kind of talent he had. And then he's basically hurt all year. And so who do you put out in center field? Well, it turns out you got like three or four different guys that have slid around and manned center field here and there. And including Nolan Jones, former Guardian, former Colorado Rocky, now Guardian again, who came up as a third baseman and has played quite a bit of center field for us, in addition to playing a really good right field. He's hurt now. He's not going to play in the playoffs, but he was one of those guys that people were like, why is he even on the team? We got to release him. He's batting 200. And people just don't take into account some of the other things that players can do. And also just the fact, I mean, and I think like Cal Raleigh and his bid for MVP this year it's another situation where you like people are like, well, but he batted 248. Yeah, but he hit 60 home runs. He batted in 125. He played Gold Glove caliber catcher.
Yeah, he called the game.
When he got a hit, it mattered.
Right.
I mean, and so that's where I think like the perception of who these players are and how good they actually are has changed a lot, because hitting for average, I mean, you just don't have as many people that are hitting above 270 as you once did. Now, if you're hitting 225, I mean, that's pretty close to the Mendoza line, right? I mean, we used to really turn our noses up at somebody that was hitting under or right at about the Mendoza line. But now it's just sort of like it's normal. You're going to have maybe a guy or two in your lineup like that, and he might not even be the catcher. And so what I come to with that is they have proven as a staff in Cleveland that all of your questions about, well, who's this lineup? Who are these guys? These guys are losers. They can't win. Just let the professionals do their job, because clearly they know more than you do. And they have just put together, like I said, a historic run. They've done what nobody, myself included, I didn't think they were a playoff team coming out of August. I thought we're done. Might as well not even watch unless you're just watching for, some of the late season call up prospects and see how they do. And, but you're watching for next year. And then they go on a run like that. They didn't need the Cleveland fans to believe in them. They didn't need the Cleveland fans to say you're doing it right. They didn't need any of that. They didn't need a bunch of big dollar signings at the trade deadline. I mean, they weren't really sellers. They sold, Shane Bieber, and I think they got an okay return, but he hadn't pitched for us in over a year, so it was like, eh. But they didn't go get anybody. They weren't like, we're a couple pieces away. Let's go buy this guy and buy this guy, and that's going to propel us to the postseason and maybe so we can go on a World Series run. They didn't do any of those things, and so. But the thing is that's pretty typical of them as a franchise. They're not going to be that team that goes out and does that. And so some people have said, well, I can't watch this team. Let the professionals do what they do. But at the end of the day, for me, make the movie. Just make the movie. Go ahead, call Disney, whoever needs to make this movie. This is a better story than the one that they told in the major league movies. Period. Full stop. That's it. They have proven to people the value of grit and resiliency, and just this is what being a fan of a sports team is all about. They make you, even if you don't believe in them, and I, deep down, I never stopped believing. I always still was turning it on and still checking the score and, still, hoping for a bright spot. But I think in life, it's just really easy for us to forget, like, that we have something to believe in. And when you watch your team do something like that, something that was impossible, to win that division, they were a 99.9% chance of winning the division, the Tigers, at the beginning of the month. And they almost missed the playoffs. They were like a game away from missing the playoffs. So, of course, it took two things to happen. The Tigers had a sort of catastrophic collapse at the end.
Right.
Even, Tarek Skubal couldn't beat us. We beat him 2 times down the stretch. But then just the fact that they just took care of business when they needed to. They did the things, they took care of the things that they could control. And that's another lesson for life. Focus on what you can control and let everything else either take care of itself or not.
I've got the movie title for you. I'd call it 1.5%, because that's what I remember seeing the playoff odds being. ESPN scroll to the right, 1.5%. You're like, man, that's a bummer. And then it went to 7. Then it went to 14.
Well, and you never think it's going to be your team that does it until it is. And yeah, I mean, at this point now we're talking, okay, we're going into the wild card round, and maybe we can springboard off of this momentum that we have, and we can go on a deep run. And obviously, like, is this team better than the team that came pretty close to making the World Series last year? Technically, I mean, they were no match for the Yankees in any way, shape, or form, but they were within striking distance, seemingly. I don't know if they're better than they were last year, but I think that Stephen Vogt as a manager is better this year. He had to deal with some major struggle in the middle of this season, and had to overcome it, had to listen to a lot of doubters, and probably received death threats. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. And the things that they overcame this year were way bigger than what they were last year. And so now they've developed a little bit of a rotation. I mean, I thought Tanner Bybee was our ace going into the season in the rotation, but by no means did I think he was an ace. He just was our top starter. And he ends up being like our 3rd or 4th best starter this year. And it took all year for like Gavin Williams to develop, and Slade Ciccone, who, again, talk about all the people that were hating on the fact that we traded away Josh Naylor. Well, what was the big piece that we got for Josh Naylor? Slade Ciccone. He ended up being pretty good for us this year. Yep. So let the pros do what they do. Just stand back, watch, support, and appreciate the show of resilience that you got from your team. And me as a fan, it's all like, going back to the house money comment that you made. I mean, that's how I feel. I know that's not how Jose Ramirez feels. I
Right.
know he's in that locker room just firing guys up. But for me, it's like we weren't even supposed to make the playoffs, let alone win the division. I mean, remember the conversation we had at the beginning of the year? And I
Oh yeah.
was like, yeah, I mean, this is probably the Tigers division. And honestly, maybe we'll finish third. I think the Royals, I did. And I'll go out and say again that I said that the Twins would not be any good. Turns out they were one of the worst teams in the American League in the end. Now, they gave up at the trade deadline basically. But yeah, I mean, the Twins twinned as they do. But I was right. The Royals were a formidable team. I thought even down the stretch, I thought they were the team that could maybe get the Tigers, but I didn't even think that was going to happen. So yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. But house money for me as a fan. I can't wait to watch them in the wild card series. Hope they win. If they don't, I think that this momentum means a lot for the future.
Amazing. Amazing.
Pretty long-winded answer there, but yeah, I had a lot to release. So anyway, though, let's move into your wheelhouse, Alex. We're on the cusp of the NHL opener, just over a week away. We got NFL and college football going. Basketball is another 2 weeks around the corner for NBA. I mean, with all of this that's going on, and then of course playoff baseball, which is always exciting. Is this your favorite time of year as a fan?
No doubt. No doubt. This is when the ESPN app really starts buzzing, the Fox Sports app, the Yahoo Sports. I'm just getting pinged all hours of the night. Wife's making me silence everything, and you just feel like you're missing out. Training camp. We're already 3 or 4 games into NHL preseason. NBA is having their media day this week for a lot of teams. They'll be firing up games here soon. Golf is winding down. Baseball's hitting the big, every at bat is being watched, and you're getting those pings to your phone of, hey, it's a 1-run game in the eighth, and you're hanging on every moment. There's nothing better as a sports fan. Football's starting to round into form. You're starting to see who teams are, who's going to make that run. Bye weeks are starting to creep up. It's just fun. It's just a lot to keep up on. The NHL season already had a major injury happen in preseason with Alexander Barkov from the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers going out with a pretty serious knee injury. They've ruled him out for the year, so they're going for a three-peat without their leader. The Avs just went through that, losing their captain and leader in Landeskog for a few years. Avs are a favorite to win the cup. Nuggets have things back in business with Bruce Brown back in town, Cam Johnson coming over from the Nets, Tim Hardaway Jr. That roster is just stacked. Bo Nix is alive and well here in the Rocky Mountains. Big Monday night football game tonight. This is the time to be a sports fan, to where every night the kids are asking me, Dad, what team's playing? Who's on? Reluctantly, as I go, you know what? I can watch this one on my phone. Throw on, we did Halloween Town 2 last night while I caught the end of Sunday Night Football on my phone. But yeah, there's always some sort of device in the corner that I'm taking a peek at, side eyeing, while the wife says, "Hey, be present." Um, so yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot to juggle. Kids sports are in full swing right now. All 3 kids playing soccer. It's a good time to be alive. It's a good time for distractions in this crazy world. Trying to stay forefront and making sure that we're staying true to our beliefs and kindness and moving forward with how we want the world to be seen, but also getting to cheer your heroes and athletes on and people that you respect and admire, and seeing what script that they can create on any given night. It's a good time for sports.
Well, I can't forget we got MLS Cup
MLS.
playoffs starting in the day after the first day of NBA, so we've got that coming up in October as well. So really, like, this is one of those. I feel like 2 times of year where it's just like pure excitement, and for me, it's right now as we're getting into football season, everything's going on, and then come spring when we've got March Madness and we're getting close to the end of the NBA, getting into playoffs there, and baseball season starting, the long march that it is.
Oh yeah.
There's really, to me, yeah, one of two times of year that are just like pretty epic and pretty busy for us as sports fans.
Busy. There's always something on the radio. I mean, the kids love me right now in terms of asking dad who's on, who's playing, dad. Do we have, is there no football tonight? College is pretty much every night now. I mean, you turn on the TV on a Tuesday and you're like, who is the Delaware Blue Hens and the North Texas Stampede?
Better watch out for North Texas, the Mean Green. They're lean and they are mean out of Denton. Anyway.
Do you have a question for you in terms of being growing up in Iowa, being a Nebraska fan, a Cleveland fan, all my Iowa friends got to pick their favorite team. Talk to me about moving to a new city and taking on that fandom. Obviously, it's a big topic of conversation here with the Rockies having more away fans than home fans. I can't stand Ball Arena as good as the Avs have been for years. When Red Wings or Dallas come to town, it is red and green. It's bright, it's loud, it's obnoxious. Had a lot of talks with a lot of mentors and friends over this topic, and I'll give you my caveat and then I'll let you answer. One of the best things about being a fan is diving in. You see them constantly. We used to only have access to our local teams, and it provides a sense of monetary value as well to be behind the Broncos. When the Broncos lose, it is common knowledge that Colorado's value the next day drops by 10 to 20% in terms of productivity and just money being spent. When they win, it's up 10 to 20%. What are your thoughts on if I was to move to California, becoming an LA Laker and LA Dodger fan just because I live there and only getting to wear, my purple and my Nuggets gear when they're in town 2 to 3 times a year?
No. Easy answer is no. For me, like when I moved to Portland, I grew up, during Michael Jordan's heyday in Chicago, and lived a large part of that in the Midwest, where a lot of people were, more inclined to be Chicago sports fans, among other potential options. But I didn't follow the Bulls, like I didn't stay a Bulls fan later in life. And I certainly can't claim myself to be a Bulls fan now. I've never had an NBA team really outside of that. And I think, I don't know, probably half of America was a Bulls fan then, right?
Sure.
I mean, it was Michael Jordan, right? But so that being said, you move to a town that has an NBA team, and the Blazers, a storied franchise, and a fun team to go watch. I've been out to see them a bunch of times, and every year going into the NBA season, I'm like, this year I'm gonna get more into it. And I think really it's when you become a fan of a team, you have to like attach yourself to certain moments and be present for those moments, whether you're watching on TV or you're there in person, for you to sort of galvanize yourself as a fan and then become somebody that actually cares about it. And it's really hard to do. I'll say that it's hard to do when you're, later in life, certainly. Like when you're getting into your middle ages, it's difficult to pick a new team and just actually really do, like, truly become a fan. And so I've never been able to do it with the Blazers, even though I don't have another team. With the Timbers, in spite of their success, I've been to a couple games there. It's fun to go watch, and it's the same thing. I try to get into it. I try to be a true fan, and I just, the teams that I consistently want to watch are the teams that I've always wanted to watch. And so I would challenge you, if you actually were that person moving to LA and potentially switching allegiances, if you're a true fan of the teams that you moved away from, you wouldn't be able to do it, whether you were a rival of those teams or not. It just wouldn't be. It would become, for me, I can't wait to go see Cleveland when they come to LA. That's what it would be. It would be like, every year there's a series that we got to go. And for us, since we don't have baseball here, a couple times I've been up to Seattle when Cleveland has like opened the season, or like one of the first series they've played in Seattle. I've been up to watch a game here and there for that. But that's why I would do it. even though when I was a kid, I didn't hate the Mariners. Obviously, the Ken Griffey Jr. thing, just like with Jordan, and I lived in Washington for part of that. So, I mean, I like almost became a Mariners fan, and it just didn't happen.
Okay.
And now I live in Mariners country, and I'm not a Mariners fan because there's a team that means a lot to me, and I can't change that. It's just it's when you're a true fan of a team, it's in you, and you look forward to them playing. You look forward to the beginning of the season. You look forward to every week, every game. Yeah, so
There's no necessity.
I couldn't do it.
It's not that
I
you're
couldn't do
missing
it.
out. You can get an MLB package and see your team. You can get the NBA package and see your team. It's not as regional where you have to. I am one of those guys that at Red Wings games, I'm going, you left Detroit for a reason. It's time to take it off. Like, take
Sure.
the red off. You're not like, you're here. You've lived here for 20 years. It's time to make the move. But
And I mean, I think a huge part of that is just, you know, especially when you're a fan of, I mean, like let's just take Seattle for example, right? I mean, there are a lot of really big Seattle fans. How many Yankees fans, Red Sox fans, Dodgers fans, etc., fans of the old teams, the teams that have been around longer, who are everywhere. And they grew up, even if they maybe you grew up in Seattle, but like your family's from New York. And so you've got like old Yankee blood in you. No matter what, you're a Yankees fan. Like, unless you just decide to change it, you're a Yankees fan. And so with those old teams, those old franchises that have been around for a long time in the cities where they have newer teams, more recent teams, I think that will always be a thing because you can, like for me, like you can take me out of the Midwest, but you can't take the Midwest out of me, you know, just to be cliche. Those teams that I'm a fan of they're in me, even though I don't want to live there. I really don't want to live there at all. But and again, because of the nationally televised stuff now, I mean, you can see like talking college football, even college basketball. Like I can remember a time where even locally we couldn't see a Nebraska basketball game. Like that wasn't going to be on TV. Now I can watch almost every Nebraska basketball game, and we're not even really good. Like
ESPN.
ESPN Plus, BTN, like I mean, so the accessibility is huge, but I think in general, like when you're a fan of one of those old teams or old franchises, like that just doesn't go away. And you relocate to better cities like Denver and LA and San Francisco and Portland and Seattle and et cetera, but you don't stop rooting for those teams.
Right.
That's me, but you know, I think that the true fans would agree with me on that.
Absolutely. I like it.
This is a big question, Alex. And this is my Ted Lasso question for you. So, as a youth coach, and you're very involved in youth coaching and at the soccer level, how do you ensure that the kids are playing for the love of the sport and instill those life lessons that are really applicable to everyone, not just the kids who grow up to play D1 and beyond?
Yeah, when you sent me this question, this is one of the big ones that is one of those soapbox moments, those life moments. Ted Lasso taught me a lot about being a person and a coach. I mean, that show was just absolutely incredible about being a human being, humanizing the experience that everyone's going through, dealing with all the different emotions and characters. And the first thing it brought up was I'm coaching a competitive team for my first time. I've coached rec for the last 5 years, actually like 7 years. And this is the first time that, hey, I want to coach a competitive team. I want to get my feet wet. I'm extremely competitive. I hate to lose anything. If it's a basketball game at the arcade, I'm shooting threes and making sure that I'm strategizing, looking underneath the hoop, making sure my arcade machine has more balls, and all those things. It brought up a situation my second game of this season with my new competitive team. I had a girl sub off, and she was upset, kind of crying, and kind of brought her off on the sideline and was just like, "Hey, you okay? What's going on?" And the next words out of her mouth like broke me. And she said, "My parents are going to be so upset with me." And I have really tried to balance and ensure that sports is a learning mechanism for life, and that a lot of the things that I have benefited from in my workplace, in my relationships, in my ability to communicate with those around me is from sports. And having a player that is not even a teenager yet come off the field and say, "My parents are going to be so mad at me over a game that we are blessed to play on a beautiful turf field in the middle of one of the most desirable zip codes in the United States, much less the world." When, obviously I'm not going to sit down and have this big conversation of, like our parents used to tell us, like, there's starving kids in Africa, there's this and that. There are still starving kids in Africa. There are still people around the world that don't have access to running water. There are still people in the world that are playing with a newspaper wrapped ball that was wrapped in feces and pee that they were able to turn into a soccer ball and play on a dirt patch. And that's their toy. That's what they grew up with.
Mhm.
And it's crazy to think in the year 2025 that those things still exist. So I really try to stay grounded in the youth sports and be the bridge between those parents that are losing their minds on the sideline and myself, which is, I want to win as bad as the next person, but I'm not going to do it to sacrifice morals. Like, it is for the buildup of their character to learn how to make mistakes, how to work as a team, how to support one another, how to make complicated decisions in a split second. That was really stand out. And I actually had to communicate that with the team, be like, "Hey, I heard this during the game. I don't ever want to hear it again. We need support as a team. We need to come together." We're very lucky that we get to come out on a Saturday morning and have the opportunity to play together for 1 hour. Like, we are some of the most blessed. As much chaos is going on, as much as tired as we are in the field, like, we are freaking lucky.
Mhm.
And keeping that perspective in mind and knowing that at the end of the day, it's a silly game with rules that were made up on the fly to keep a competitive landscape and to learn something. It's a little wild to me how young kids are starting. I saw a post on Facebook this morning with a lady that said, "I'm looking for a competitive baseball team for my 6-year-old. Does anyone know
Hmm.
in the area?" And the first 10 comments, thank goodness, were all, "If you're looking for a competitive team for your kid, maybe you're the problem," was one comment. Another one was, might just want to let the kid play. Maybe he hates baseball, or even if he loves it a lot, like, that rec team's going to be great for him. We're trying to grow up too quick, I think, and not
Mhm.
realizing that it is just a game. It's a beautiful game that we all have different passions for. There's games of all shapes and sizes. Netball is one that I've recently gotten into that's big in Australia, with just this randomly hung net in the middle. It kind of looks like basketball, but then they can't guard you. And there's just so many games out there that are, I encourage you to check out. Oh man, what's his face's? He does a lot of specials on ESPN of sports around the world, where, these games and villages that have been done. There's
Like
one
on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
on the Ocho. They chase a wheel of cheese down this
Oh
steep,
yeah,
and
oh
they
yeah,
go
I've
over
seen
kids
that. That's
in
a that's a
$500.
in the UK, I think, right? Yeah,
Yep, and they've been doing it for centuries, so why not keep doing it? But
yeah.
it's the fun of the game to learn a different skill, to give you some distraction from your day to day, and to make you think differently. That's the hardest part about being a youth coach. I grew up in the system too. I wanted to be a D1 athlete. Um, I promise you, moms and dads out there, you'll know if you have a D1 athlete. I look at Cal Raleigh's dad sitting on this, like, standing behind the backstop and just being respectful of his moment. He just looks like a normal, ordinary guy. A lot of these top athletes, with exception for a few, obviously we create some super athletes with some high profiles getting together, but for most part, you see their parents and you're like, those are normal looking people that worked in a factory for 30 years. And a lot of baseball players, when they make the show, they're paying off their parents' mortgage to say thank you for all the
Right.
time and effort. I promise you, if they're meant to be D1, they will. And to look in those players' hearts and minds and to connect with them, because there's so much more to sports. And when I say that the top 1% of the top 1% make the show, it's not a challenge. It's not to say go work for 5 hours a night at home in the backyard. It's to say you didn't win the genetic lottery. There's other plans for your child, and they're going to learn lessons from this. So, off my soapbox, super passionate about the youth game. Super passionate with kids that I grew up with. I played with a guy that made the MLS. I played against a guy in high school that played for Chile's national team. Um, some cool experiences, but it is truly the top 1% of 1% that are ever going to make a living off of the sport. So enjoy the ride. The pressure that you put on sports is palpable.
Yeah, I think you're clearly doing it the right way for the right reasons, and um, yeah, I agree, and obviously that's why I referenced Ted Lasso, because I think as a program that showed us so much of more about what are sports for, um, than just it's not just a. I mean, it is just a game, and it's easy to just boil it down and say, we don't need to take it that seriously, but at the same time, like there is an opportunity at every level. Like you can choose what level you want to be at and how competitive you want to play at, and like for me, like age 41, I choose not to go play more competitive slow pitch softball than I do. Because I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, I could play. I like wouldn't be a star or anything like that. But like I could go play. But I like just don't like the way that feels
Right.
anymore. It just doesn't feel like that's the right spot for me. And I like that there is a an option that I can choose and other people can choose to go and just play something that is more of a like a true beer league where we're out there to have fun. We can be competitive. We like it, and we have fun, and that's what we do. And we feel like we are in the right place. We don't feel like we're going to have to put too much pressure on ourselves, and et cetera, et cetera. Um, but I see so many of the parents that are out there that we've reached a point in as a culture, I think, where everybody wants their kid to be a pro ball player or a pro athlete, right? And there's more to life than that. And the really important thing to keep in mind is the math. And there's, you know, 350 million of us in this country alone. And going back to the kid that you were talking about that had the like homemade soccer ball, that kid, you know, kids like that make it
Right.
sometimes, right? Like with nothing, against all odds, they still can make it. And yet somebody that has every opportunity still doesn't. And so you just need to understand that sometimes it just does not work out. And in most cases, it's not going to work out. And you have to be doing it for more than just that. Right.
I'm going to piggyback your last statement into the last question. And I had a dad come up to me once and go, "What's something else that I can do for my kid to get them ready for next soccer season?" And I said, "Well, do they like other sports?" And they're like, "Yeah, but like, should I be getting them in a camp, or she really wants to play volleyball?" And I said, "Let her play volleyball. She needs to play volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Play other sports. Be active." With that in mind, I also had another dad say, "Hey, so and so's playing flag football this year too." And I said, "Amazing." His justification for playing flag football: there's a lot more colleges and universities that are implementing flag football teams. And I feel if we get in early enough and get her started early enough, she'll have a good opportunity to make one of those teams and get a college scholarship. So, with that in mind, I know you and I were told, getting into school, get a scholarship, pay for your education. Now you have NIL that has really flipped the landscape on its head. It has changed schedules in terms of people going from one conference and one division to other divisions. Lots of movement in terms of money, booster money, kids being involved in sports, wide receivers being offered sums of money to transfer to a new school, the transfer portal. With that in mind, has NIL and the transfer portal ruined college sports?
Well, first and foremost, I have to say that it doesn't affect almost any college sports, right? I mean, the college sports that we're focused on, chiefly say college basketball and college football, and chiefly FBS, Power Four college football.
Right.
Um, it has an impact there, but outside of that, it really doesn't much. Um, except for that, all of those smaller levels and lower levels and smaller programs, et cetera, have become sort of like a minor league system and a feeder system.
Sure.
So I think there are pros and cons there. Um, I'll go off of that and say I think that players that are involved in a sporting event that makes their college or university a lot of money, significantly more than what the value of their scholarship is. Um, I think they deserve some compensation for that, especially because these to be at that level, these kids have worked every day. Going back to what we were just talking about, these are the kids that did make it, and the amount of work that they had to put in to get there, they deserve some compensation for that, for going out there and putting their bodies on the line and doing it on behalf of their college or university. Now, of course, when you're talking about being willing to transfer for money, you're less focused on your college or university, but your university is using you too, right? They're using you as a promotion tool. They're using you as a revenue generator. So I it has certainly changed things a lot. I think that with the way things are currently running, it is, speaking college football, I think there are going to be maybe 10 teams every year that have any shot, period. And we're going to start to see the cream rise to the top when it comes to money. And that is changing the landscape a bit, because some of these schools that have a lot of money, a lot of booster money that's being raised and supplied and spent on these players, are not those traditional powers. And so we're going to start to see some shifting there, I think, because like you look at Nebraska has plenty of money. They are a top 15 NIL school. But when you compare top 15 to top 5, I mean, let's look at Oregon, right here in my backyard. They've got Uncle Phil. Has made it no secret that he wants to win a college football championship at Oregon before he dies, and he's old. So, I mean, that's a blank check for that university.
Right.
And so we talk about salary caps in pro sports, and what a potential disaster it really is in Major League Baseball to not have one, and all of that, right? But like, if you want your team to win a championship, in theory, you can go buy one if you've got the money. And so I think right now, the way that things are run, it's not just the money, it's the contacting players that are signed in another school and playing on another school's roster. There's a lot of that stuff going on behind the scenes. And I think, people who have been big college football fans or been behind the scenes know that that stuff was going on before this was all legal. So it's not that has changed. It's that because there's so much more movement because of NIL and the transfer portal, there's even more of it that's happening. And it's almost impossible, especially with the multitude of ways that a coach from another program, or not even a coach, right? They're getting around this by using, well, it's a friend of the program. He's not employed by us. He's not affiliated with us, but he's reaching out to this player. He knows the coach. And so he can be the connector, almost like an agent, right? And then some of these kids are getting agents. So there's a lot of stuff that I think they need to work on the regulation side. And I think to an extent they need to find a way to use some of that money that they're raising and that they're making to give a little bit to some of the athletes that are playing sports that are not revenue generator sports.
Right.
But ultimately, though, you could say that it has ruined college sports in that it has changed it to more of a pro mindset, but it's an unregulated pro mindset, right? You look at like National Football League. Can you go call the quarterback for such and such team, not your quarterback? You really want him. He's going into free agency and you want to get out ahead of it. Can you call that player directly? No, you cannot. That is against the rules. So it shouldn't be so easy for you to do that at the college level, to meddle, to interfere, and cause all of this basically corruption that's happening. But at its heart, a player being able to be compensated for their name, image, likeness, to be able to have the ability to transfer to another school that fits them better, whether it's for money or it's playing time or it's a coaching philosophy, whatever it is, those kids should be able to do that, because you and I could do that as just a regular student, not a student athlete. I can transfer to another school.
Right.
I don't have to like be suspended. Now we can talk about like how easy is it to transfer credit hours from one school to another. That doesn't always work so well, but it's allowed. So like these are amateur athletes. Even if some of them, very few of them, are making a lot of money. Very few. We also have to keep that in mind. It's FBS P4 players that are getting paid for the most part, and the ones that are getting paid a lot, it's maybe a few players per roster on average. Most of these guys, like Nebraska, has implemented a thing where if you're on the team as a non-walk-on, you basically get a base salary, and it's not bad. I mean, it's more money than what you would have had just as a student athlete before, because it's outside of your scholarship. But again, there's a lot, and I think over time they will fix this. But right now it sort of feels like, to get into nerdy stuff, to go like X-Men, Cyclops rips the glasses off, and it's just like everywhere. That's how it feels right now, and I just think we need to put the glasses on, and we need to control it a little bit better.
You get the pot ready for the pasta.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my take. I think it's a good thing. In theory, I think they need to do a much better job at regulating it at all levels. Period.
Love it. Amazing.
So, final question of the day, I guess, is what that was, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
We are just like zipping on through this really, really long show. So we wanted to get back into the habit of closing the show with talking about something not so sports related. But I'm going to kind of bridge the gap a little bit here. So there's a show that is getting ready to come out. It's based on a commercial, or basically a promotional kind of thing that was done by another athlete. And it got made into a show because it's such a cool idea. And I'm talking about Eli Manning and the Chad Powers character. The show is getting ready to come out on Hulu. So it's a sports show. It looks like it has a pretty good cast. It looks a little, I mean, I don't know if you're like me, but if it's a sports related thing that is well produced, and I would say the bottom line on that is like Blue Mountain State for me. Okay. Like that was like pretty cheesy, but like you still watched it because it was like sports, right? Are you going to watch this? And do you expect it to be any good?
What was it? Think fast, be fast. Think fast,
yeah.
Fast.
Fast chat.
I'm watching it. Heck yeah. Need more things like that. The Manning brothers are amazing. The Manning cast is fantastic.
It's pretty funny that because I remember when Peyton Manning came out of college and he was like, Mr. like, my dad was a quarterback in the NFL. I'm Peyton Manning. And he had his whole thing that he did when he bounced his feet whenever he was getting ready to throw the ball. And then like they play Nebraska in, what was for Nebraska a championship game. And we just like demolished them. And I just was like, Peyton Manning. But in the end, like, I mean, Peyton Manning is a pretty funny dude. I have to say that. Like,
especially with how self-deprecating they are to it. Like
they are. They really like it's the brother on brother humor. It's like, I mean, do you remember when Peyton Manning hosted Saturday Night Live, and he did they did like the commercial where Peyton Manning's like giving back or whatever, and he's out there playing football with a bunch of little kids, and he's just like yelling at
cursing. You're like, whoa!
He throws the ball super hard and like knocks the kid over. He's like, you're a loser. You're always gonna be a loser. Like, oh my god, yeah, those guys. I have a lot of respect for what they did as players, but I have an appreciation for their for what they still add to the sports world as non-coaches. I mean, they're not, they didn't finish their coaching career or their playing career and go into coaching like a lot of people do, or really broadcasting either, because the Manning cast is not a broadcast, right? Not really.
The This Is Sports Center commercial where they're touring Sports Center with dad looking back at them as they're like, it's just, yeah, he's one of those guys where like, you take this too serious, you're annoying, you're good, like just have fun. He's having fun now. I'm just, it's I'll watch every second of that show. Just take it in. Hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah, I think it'll be well produced. I think we'll at least have that, and that will be good enough for us. So we talked about it a while ago, and we've been texting about it a little bit, but wife and I finally watched White Lotus, and we finished it. And whoa,
that's all you can say.
That's really something. I mean, it was gripping in a different kind of way, because they tell you what's going to happen at the beginning, like, just a taste of it, at least. Like, somebody's going to die. This is going to be what causes it, but they're not going to tell you who. They're just going to, I mean, they sort of do, because the person that they show at the beginning, it's not them, but like, right. Otherwise you're like, who's going to die? And the whole time you're like, who's it going to be? And it's like, it just keeps you coming back for more, as opposed to, they don't leave you on cliffhangers every episode. They start off with this big cliffhanger from the future, and then you're trying to figure out how do they get there. And just the story, that the cast, I mean, loved the casting. There's so many like people that you just appreciated seeing. I mean, I'm a huge Walton Goggins fan. That probably wasn't my favorite character. I mean, Baby Billy from Righteous Gemstones will probably always be the best character he's ever played, but it's just it really, really good. Really good. I'm glad we finally watched it.
Yep, gripping show. And every season you're just like, what kind of chaos are we in? And morbid chaos.
Yeah.
Trying not to take anything else away, but
everybody's got that kind of inside of them that they want to, like, there's a little bit of a need for carnage and, like, bad stuff. And man, it's there. It's crazy show. If you haven't watched it, you should check it out. Even my wife liked it. And there are plenty of shows that, like, she'll just like watch, and in the background she's like not really watching it. It takes a special show for her to actually put the phone down and actually watch it and be interested and be like, when are we watching another episode, and like all that. And that was one of those shows, just for what it's worth. So
you don't want to miss anything. There's little tidbits, there's little Easter eggs, little bits of humor. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we are getting ready to wrap up here. And we're going to send everybody off. Excited for wild card baseball starting tomorrow. They've got Cleveland and Detroit playing in the middle of the day. So, obviously I'm not going to be getting any work done tomorrow or Wednesday, and hopefully just tomorrow and Wednesday. Hopefully there's no game Thursday. But, if you're rooting for a team, I hope your team does well, unless it's the Yankees or the Dodgers. And then, yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks. So
perfect.
Anyway,
it's a busy weekend. It'll be great.
Remember not to block the TV. This has been You're Blocking the TV with Josh Creekmore, Alex Pacheco. See you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.